Welcome to the More Than Just a Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Lil Suprenant MD. I'm a life coach for physicians, a practicing hospitalist, a wife, a mom of 2 boys, a reader, a dancer, a dolphin enthusiast, and all the things. Just like me, you're more than just a doctor, and that's what we're going to talk about each week. Doctor stuff, regular life stuff, and all the things that make life rich and interesting. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. All right. Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 19 of the More Than Just a Doctor podcast. I'm Lil Suprenant, your host. And today I want to give you the thought. I want to talk about sometimes it's worth the trouble. I want to tell you a story. So this spring, my husband and I got invited by our friends, Patrick and Sarah, I'm going to call them out, to go on a trip to Italy. This is during the school year. We have work and, all the commitments and not months and months in advance. And my first reaction was like, it's impossible, can't go. Like my mind, first thing was all the reasons like why it wouldn't work. I didn't have childcare arranged. My most regular childcare person was out of the country for part of it. My little guy does not do well with a lot of change, and he really likes me to be around and blah, blah. Oh, of course, I had to work. I was already on the schedule for the hospital, so already on the schedule for my coaching clients. Like a bunch of reasons, like logistically, why it would be difficult. Okay, but we really wanted to go. We hadn't been on a trip away with the two of us since COVID, and we used to do that. We used to try to do that in the spring once a year. We hadn't been out of the country together since before COVID. And so, and we wanted to spend time with our friends, and they had such a generous and really fabulous opportunity. It just seemed like we really wanted to go. So I did a whole bunch of arranging because my main childcare person was out of the country. Like it was a lot more complicated than it would have been in a regular time. So I arranged a hodgepodge of childcare. I switched my schedule at the hospital. I switched my coaching schedule. I made lists because I had a bunch of different childcare for this week. I made a bunch of different lists for every person. And if you guys know me, like I'm not naturally super organized. Like I'm kind of a little bit more go with the flow, but I made lists for everybody. I made lists for myself. I ordered groceries in advance. I wrote down the meal schedule for everybody. I packed a bag for the part that they were spending with their granddad. And my husband and I, we had flights separately. We had a different schedule because he was going to go a couple days early to see friends of his. I couldn't go on that leg, or I chose not to go on that leg because my older son was starring in the middle school play, and there was no way I was going to miss that. So like the whole thing, all the logistics were pretty complicated for us. But I'm going to tell you, it was worth the trouble. That was my thought when we got home. We had a great trip. We got to connect with our friends. We got to connect with each other. We did a whole bunch of stuff. We went to the Amalfi Coast. We met Sarah and Patrick's family and spent some good time with them. We went to Barcelona for a couple days as a surprise. I mean, my thought was, it's worth the trouble. So that's what I want to offer to you is sometimes it's worth the trouble. So a lot of times we have really full and busy lives. We've got the kids got to go to 14 things. We've got, work meeting this and that. And I just want to offer you when your first thought is like, I can't do this. It's impossible. I can't, yeah. I just want to offer you that it's possible. It's in our control, and we get to decide if something is worth the trouble. And this particular trip was totally worth the trouble. Another thing that, is worth the trouble are things that get us to be the person we want to be. So it's worth the trouble to train for the road race. It's worth the trouble to figure out if you need a trainer for that and how you're going to fit that in so that you get the satisfaction of all the doing and then accomplishing the goal. It can be worth the trouble. Connecting with your spouse, like setting up a babysitter, grandparents, whatever it takes for your date nights, if that's what you want to do, your weekend away. I hear a lot of people say to me, like, we can't go, like, we don't have any family around. Right now, I've got some family that can help, not super close, but I didn't have that for several years. And it's worth the trouble to figure out hiring a babysitter. It's worth the money. It's worth the going through people. Like, it's worth the trouble to live the life that you want to live. So the summer is another example of sometimes it's worth the trouble. I concocted a fairly busy summer for myself and the kids, my husband a little bit, but he got exempted from a lot of the going around, like 2 different kids, different ages. I had goals set, my Rich Life goals from the beginning of the year, like what kind of experiences I wanted them to have, connecting with friends, certain camps, and of course, trips for me, connecting with some of my friends. Well, it turned out to be, it's been great. It's been a really rich and great summer. It has been a lot of logistical doings, like more than I anticipated, straight up. But looking back at it so far, and I've got another few weeks, got some more logistics coming up, but I would say it's been worth the trouble. Another question that I'm inviting you to ask is, how can this be easier? Like, both it's worth the trouble and how can this be easier? Another question is, how can it be easier next time? Like, for me, for sure, looking back at this summer, I would have kept most of the stuff I did, but I would have hired different childcare to cover it more robustly and simply. That's where the trouble, the hassle for me came in, is I had the thought, looking at the schedule ahead of time, that I didn't need that much childcare. And that turned out to be totally not true. I needed a lot. It was all in these little weird hours and pockets. And so looking back at it and thinking for next year, how can I make it easier for myself? It would be thinking better ahead and planning for needing more childcare than I think I need, because I didn't plan for a whole lot of the things that pop up. So it was still worth the trouble, but how can I make it easier? How can I make it easier next time? So that's what I have for you today. I just want to offer you, sometimes it's worth the trouble. And I hope this gets one person listening to this on a trip that they think is too much trouble, or on a hike they think is too hard that they have to train for, or to go see a friend that they haven't seen in years and they think it's too much trouble to connect to hectic mom schedules. So my deepest wish is that somebody listens to this and says, you know what, maybe it's worth the trouble, and takes the trouble and gets the thing that they want. So have a great rest of the week. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you like this episode, you're going to love working with me directly. Sign up for email updates from me in the show notes. I'll send you a fun email every week called Friday Favorites. Everyone loves it. Or if you're ready to get started creating your rich and interesting life, book a free consultation with me to explore working together one-on-one. I can't wait to meet you. You'll find these links and other resources in the show notes. See you next week.